So good morning and welcome everyone. I'm Sarah Fossen. I'm Executive Director of Minnesota Citizens for the Arts, and I'm delighted to have you all joining us today. One of the things I love most about my role is the opportunity to build relationships across sectors and help create connections that strengthen Minnesota's arts community. And then sometimes those conversations lead to exciting opportunities, and today's webinar is a really great example of that. So through some conversations with Explore Minnesota, discussing their vision for tourism in our state and their very exciting new Star of the North campaign, it became clear that it wasn't simply a tourism campaign. It was a significant opportunity for Minnesota's arts and cultural community. So we quickly realized that our members and artists and arts organizations and cultural institutions and creative businesses would want to learn more about this effort and also understand how arts and culture are being integrated into Minnesota's tourism strategy and discover how you can all participate and benefit. So that's why we're so excited to bring this conversation to you directly today. I want to take a moment to recognize Catherine Sutton as a marketing genius and incredible asset to the state of Minnesota. She and her team are tremendous champions for elevating arts and culture as an essential part of Minnesota's story. Her leadership reflects an understanding that visitors don't experience Minnesota just through one lens. They experience Minnesota through our creativity, our culture, our communities, and the experiences that make our state unlike anywhere else in the country. For years, much of our tourism marketing understandably focused on our incredible outdoor assets, our lakes, trails, parks, and natural beauty. And those resources are obviously a tremendous part of what makes Minnesota special. But we know visitors don't come solely for our landscapes. They come for our music, our theaters, our festivals, our galleries, our public art, our cultural traditions, our vibrant main streets, and the creative experiences that bring all of our communities to life. In many ways, that shift kind of mirrors what Minnesota recognized when they passed the Legacy Amendment, right? Arts and culture, clean water, parks and trails, and habitat were never competing priorities. They were complementary investments that together make Minnesota a better place to live, work, and visit. So today we're seeing that same philosophy reflected in tourism. The question is no longer whether the arts contribute to tourism. The question is whether Minnesota can afford to compete for visitors, talent, and investment without fully embracing the arts as a core part of our tourism strategy. And so the very good news that we're so excited to be here discussing today is that Explore Minnesota is answering that question with a resounding yes. And of course, we love our data, and the data backs that up. So arts and cultural tourists consistently stay longer, spend more money, visit more businesses, and engage more deeply with the communities that they visit. When someone travels for a festival, performance, gallery opening, museum experience, cultural event, or public art destination, they are staying in hotels, they're dining in restaurants, they're shopping locally and contributing to the broader economy. Arts and culture is not just enriching communities, they're helping drive economic activity and tourism throughout Minnesota. So as you know, MCA has spent the past few years traveling thousands of miles across Minnesota, meeting with communities in every region of the state. And everywhere we went, we heard stories about how arts investments are revitalizing downtowns, attracting visitors, supporting local business, building community pride, improving the quality of life, and strengthening local communities. The arts are helping make communities places where people want to visit and people want to stay here. Today's webinar is an opportunity to learn directly from the people leading this effort. You'll hear about the Star of the North campaign and how arts and culture are being integrated into Minnesota's tourism story. And most importantly, how your organization can take advantage of these opportunities to reach new audiences, attract new visitors, and strengthen your impact. Before I forget, and before we begin, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that creating opportunities like the webinar today is part of what MCA does every day. We work to ensure the arts community has a seat at the table. We build relationships that open doors for our members and the arts world and advocate for policies and investments that help Minnesota's arts sector thrive. If you're not already a member, I encourage you to join us. Your membership fuels this work, strengthens our collective voice, and helps ensure that opportunities like this continue to grow for our entire arts community. So I want to thank Catherine and Explore Minnesota for their partnership and leadership, and thank you all for being here today. So let's go ahead and get started. Catherine, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hi, everybody. Catherine Sutton here. I am the Deputy Director of Marketing and Brand at Explore Minnesota. Been here for about 3 years. Lots as it seems like no time and a lot of time at the same time. Sarah talked about what we're going to talk about today. I am going to start just talking about Explore Minnesota, like who we are, in case you don't know. Then we're going to move to our Start of the North strategy and how we're incorporating arts and culture into that Minnesota brand. And then we're going to spend a lot of time on just how you can get involved in Explore Minnesota's efforts as well. So a little bit about us. What do we do? Explore Minnesota supports the growth of Minnesota's economy through the management of our tourism, livability and economic opportunity, outdoor recreation, film, and other statewide promotion efforts. That's the canned response that we have, but my Cliff Notes response is we are kind of like the hype squad for the state of Minnesota, but we are a state office. So I work for the state of Minnesota, and our job is to talk about why it's the best place in the nation to visit, to live, to do business, all of the above, right? Why we're the greatest. So that is what we do. And we have a lot of different initiatives under our one roof, which I'll talk a little bit more about today. But again, the bread and butter of what we do is tourism. That's how we originated as a state promotion office. And then we've kind of expanded that over time, which I'll talk a little bit about. Numbers are always good to start with, right? We talk a lot about our visitor economy at the state of Minnesota, and it's really a crucial part of generating economic impact for the state. So our numbers are always verified at the state, so they're a little bit delayed. So we have the 2024 numbers here. We'll get the 2025 soon, but over 80 million people visit Minnesota each year, whether that's by flight or by car. The tourism economy employs over 180,000 people in Minnesota. We generate over 2.5 billion in state and local taxes when visitors come here, and they're reverberating. There's kind of like circles of effect outside of that spend. If you're taking an Uber, you're helping to pay that driver, right, when you're going to different places when in your visit in Minnesota. So the total economic impact of that is about $25 billion. But what I like to talk about most is the number of $1,031. That is, with all of the visitation in Minnesota, they save the average Minnesotan household over $1,000 on your taxes. So when I think about what I do every day, promoting Minnesota is actually to better the life of Minnesotans, right? And save you money, give you the great services at the state. So my whole job is to get new money into the state so that this is a great place to live, and support the arts community, right? For this discussion in particular. But Explore Minnesota is a large organization and I run the marketing for it. So our goals, again, is bring net new tax revenue to the state by increasing trips and then increasing the amount of time someone spends in Minnesota or the amount of money they spend in Minnesota. One of the things we focus really a lot on within that is making sure that our marketing is a high return on investment. Are we spending that taxpayer dollar efficiently, whether it's by in-house creating our own content or in our paid advertising to ensure that we are generating more economic impact for the state. It can be fun, it can be challenging parts of the job is championing Minnesota's brand and reputation nationally and globally. Obviously, we have been in the news a lot in the last year, and honestly, for things that are hard to be in the news about, but also, more eyes are on us than ever before. So part of our job at Explore Minnesota is to pitch stories about why Minnesota is a great place that you should visit, that you should consider living in, all of the above. A huge part of all of our jobs at Explore Minnesota, whether you're a marketer or not, is to amplify partner initiatives. So what is available in Minnesota to visit? What are the destinations? What really cool things are happening? How can we integrate all of that work into how we market Minnesota? And also how we can integrate increasingly diverse perspectives about Minnesota. There may be a certain perception about who a Minnesotan is, and we're trying to kind of blow that apart and make sure that everyone knows that there are so many different types of people in Minnesota, stories, cultures. And then finally, we support Explore Minnesota Film. There's a film office for the state of Minnesota for the first time. I'll talk a little bit about that, and we do the marketing for that film office. We also create tribal nations travel content, so partnering and collaboration with the 11 tribes who share geography with Minnesota on how you can, respectfully visit a nation and their destinations as well. And then also other legislatively directive initiatives. That's something everybody at the state just has to say, because sometimes you just have to do things because you are told you need to do it. But there's usually fun things like Special Olympics, SummerSlam are coming to Minnesota this summer, and we do have some marketing initiatives for those visitors that are coming. Yeah, you're coming for SummerSlam, but is there something else that you could be doing in Minnesota? We try to direct people to take trips outside of the metro from those events and experience Minnesota more fully. So just a little bit about our marketing goals. I did just kind of want to show off some of our stuff, just so if in case you haven't seen it before. This is my screen grab. Hopefully it doesn't make anybody dizzy. ExploreMinnesota.com is our website. We have over 7 million people visit a year in 2025, or 6 million people visit with 7 million sessions. The thing we're really proud about our website is that the average session is 2.5 minutes or more. And that's actually a very big stat. So what that means is when someone comes to our website, they are looking through the content and trying to find content. So that is the stat, even more so than the amount of sessions that we try to grow. So really good, comprehensive content about all the offerings in Minnesota. One fun thing we're embarking on is making sure that when people are searching Minnesota in Google Gemini search, that we are the authoritative voice of Minnesota, whether it's about business listings, events, what you can find in Minnesota. Because we are a government entity, we already have a certain type of visibility when search comes. The reason I am talking about this is that's why it's important to partner with us on business listings and events listings, because we have an authoritative voice that we can help surface everything you do into a more authoritative area of this new AI search reality that we are now in. So anyway, we do a lot of heady work on figuring out how we can get Minnesota to surface well there. We also have a really high accessibility score of our website. So really important at the state to make sure that everything we do is accessible. So that's a little bit about our website. Check it out if it's already. Then also, I'll talk more about this, but we have reinvigorated all of the arts content on our website too. So that's what's scrolling down right now. But besides our website, every now and again, we have existential crises at work about maybe websites won't even exist in 5 years. So at the same time, we be heavy on social media channels. So we have really, really amazing people at Explore Minnesota that run our social media channels. Instagram is probably the heaviest focus for us. We have a lot of followers and we have even more reach. We're in a weird state where followers almost don't matter anymore. You just have to play with the algorithm, make sure you're surfacing on the algorithm. It's all to say we are really focusing on content and how we get really great content about Minnesota out on multiple channels. So we're live on Instagram. For a while, we thought TikTok wasn't going to exist anymore, but we're back on TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. And then we also, on the right-hand side, these are our newsletters. We have a really well-subscribed newsletter program. So this is for Minnesotans as well as people outside of the state of Minnesota. An Explorer newsletter. These mostly go out every week, just highlighting what's great about Minnesota. Sometimes they're deep dives on an arts festival or how to fish in a certain lake. But sometimes they're, kind of roundups of everything that's happening in Minnesota. So really good exposure for certain events. We also even have a newsletter about what it's like to live in Minnesota, because that again is one of our initiatives of getting more people to live here, understand what Minnesota is about. So a little bit about content there. Then we have paid campaigns, and that's where a lot of our budget as a state agency goes to. Our focus there is always video forward. We want people to see Minnesota. They might have preconceived notions of Minnesota. So how do we show them Minnesota in a way that might surprise them or just want them to know more? We do also, beyond kind of large seasonal travel campaigns. So our biggest ones live right now, most people come in spring and summer. summer, but we want people to come in the winter too. That's always something we want, as well as fall, like the seasonal color kind of road trip type campaign. We also do opportunistic campaigns. A few years ago, probably the biggest one that you maybe have heard of if you like the Timberwolves is when like Anthony Edwards said, "Bring your ass to Minnesota," and we like kind of did a huge like blitz opportunistic campaign about that. So we do things like that. One kind of more arts related one was when Charlie XCX chose Minneapolis as one of the 4 places that she was going to have her Brat tour. We did a lot of like kind of Brat stuff around Minneapolis because we knew that people were likely to fly here and have a visit here to see Charlie XCX. So we do things like that as well, more sporadically. But if we think that there's a there that we can get more money into the state, we do a lot of paid and in-kind partnerships. An example of this relevant to this conversation is we have an in-kind partnership with the Taste of Minnesota, right? So they can feature their ads on some of our newsletters, and then we're featured in their kind of event space as a brand as we move towards that concert this summer. But again, we also do a lot of livability, workforce attraction, Minnesota as a film set, bring your film to Minnesota marketing. So always on, always go when it comes to campaign. But the most important thing every year, we kind of measure, okay, how did our campaign do? What's the ROI for each dollar we spend? And over the course of the last 3 years in particular, since we've launched our Star of the North strategy, which I'll be talking about soon, we've seen a really huge increase in people seeing our campaign and wanting to travel to Minnesota. So you'll get to see some of those spots shortly, but just a little bit more about what we do. We also do earned media strategy. So we pitch press all the time on like why Minnesota is a great place to come, whether it's for specific events or other things. 2 highlights here. Obviously, travel and tourism is the bread and butter. We've had a lot of really great writing about eating out in Minneapolis lately, and I will take a teeny bit of credit for that, right? So again, our job is just to get as many media people focused on why Minnesota is a great place to visit. We did like a big press thing around the Purple Rain tour or the Purple Rain on Hennepin Avenue in November, brought out both food critics as well as music critics, right, to experience Minnesota. And those, those writers will continue to write about Minnesota as an arts destination, after they come visit. So you might be seeing some of that stuff pop up. If you saw National Geo talk about Minneapolis as the only place in the U.S. that you have to eat this year, like we were the only U.S. destination highlighted among global partners, like again, little bit of credit for that, for getting those people to Minnesota. But anyway, talking a little bit more broadly about our office, we see tourism as really the front door to economic development for our state. So if we build a place that people want to visit, and again, that is the focus of our marketing, we also are talking about a place that people want to live, that they want to work, that businesses want to establish. So we even have partnerships with the Department of Economic Development and Employment at the state of running business campaigns of starting your business in Minnesota. So that's something we also do. But we really believe that when we're investing in tourism, we're really strengthening the economy of the entire state. So just a crash course in what we do. There's a lot more that we do, but what I thought could be relevant for the group here. So I wanted to shift a little bit to our Star of the North strategy and talking more specifically about how we're incorporating arts and culture into the brand, kind of more than we ever have before. So fancy little graphic there. One thing that when we kind of started thinking about a new strategy for Minnesota is wanting to be able to talk more highly of Minnesota than maybe we had before, right? Like Minnesota ranks so high in the nation among so many different types of metrics, but people might not know about it. So I'm sure everyone here knows best state for public arts spending, but we're also the best state for health, best state to raise a family, best state for overall quality of life, which arts really have a lot to do with, in our opinion, right? So one of the things as we were thinking about, okay, we need to talk about ourselves differently, especially if we're trying to attract people to move here, businesses to start here, how like we need to bring these stats more to the surface, and we need kind of like an umbrella way to do that. So after like so much research, so many conversations with stakeholders all across the state, what we landed on was Star of the North. And it started as a campaign, but it's actually like becoming part of our brand because it has performed so well. So this launched first in March 2024. So again, we're about 2.5 years into it. And this is an umbrella campaign and strategy that serves us across tourism to livability, workforce attraction, resident retention, business attraction, all talking about like why Minnesota is the best place to live, work, do business. And it's based on, we very purposefully chose Star of the North. I do not speak French, but it is our state motto, L'Étoile du Nord. Star of the North, literally just a translation. So all Minnesotans kind of know about this already. They think of us as the North Star state. So we wanted to make sure that we kind of created a strategy that Minnesotans can see themselves in. Another part of this campaign, the star that we use in it is the Dakota Star too. So it's also a nod to the indigenous cultures that are present in Minnesota and still share geography with us. So that is kind of, again, lots of work went into creating this strategy. The brand pillars of the strategy, which I thought would be particularly interesting to this audience, are all based on these 4 words. So when we are creating marketing content, we ask ourselves, is it accessible? Is it creative? Is it inclusive? And is it like encompassing engagement, right? So in Minnesota, you can access the arts in a way that like you can't other places in America. Same with the outdoors. We're driven by creativity. Inclusion is super important to everything we do. And we have a really high engagement inside Minnesota, like, you know, the stat of like we vote the most all the time, right? But also just engagement in volunteer opportunities, standing up for each other, right? Just this was created 2.5 years, and we have seen it play out in like really great ways, in some scary stuff that's happened in our state, but also demonstrating like there is something important, distinctive, interesting about Minnesota that we can be sharing without audiences. So again, when we thought about creating this new strategy, this new kind of campaign style, we thought about we need to do this differently than we have before. So one of the foundational principles was, you know, increasingly people when they are traveling, they don't want to just visit this place, they want to like experience it like a local, right? Like like Airbnb is a huge demonstration of that, right? But they want to like actually experience it and see what it is like to be a part of that community. So one of the key things that we started to do in this strategy and campaign is more docu-style marketing. So what that means is, as opposed to like, oh, like if you see ads for Wisconsin, it's like, come visit Wisconsin, drink beer, eat brats, right? Which is great. I like to do those things. But in our campaign, we were like, why don't we just have like the travelers or the people who have just moved here just talk about their experience, right? So we literally in this campaign follow people on their trips. We do draft the itineraries for them, but we follow them on their trips with video and just see what happens and how they react to it. And so it kind of fosters this more authentic, this is what it's like in Minnesota. Does it surprise you? Is it cool, right? And then when relevant, we talk about Minnesota is the best place for public art spending. Minnesota is the best place that's like healthy. It's the second least stress state in the nation. So just thinking about how we can surface Minnesota imagery in a different way that might just catch people's eye. So I'm going to pause here, and I think you're going to just watch 2 of the short videos that we have out. All right, I'm not sure if the audio is working, but are we all done? I can't see it on my end.
There's still the video is still playing, but there's no
Okay.
audio.
Got it. Well, if the audio were playing, you would hear people say like, "Wow, there's a roller coaster in here," or like, this looks like an ocean," right? So just again, reacting to Minnesota in real time. These are people who hadn't been here before that are just experiencing Minnesota in a different way. Um, cool. Okay, should I go
Can we
on?
try this one more time? I think I
Sure.
had my audio stopped and I'm going to try it here one more time.
Sure.
Okay.
No, there's still no audio.
There's still I,
Well, one thing we can do, we can send the links to
oh,
through the
Perfect.
chat. So yeah, so no problem. You get to see the pretty pictures at least, and my slight narration. And apologies that I can't also see what's going on. But anyway, just a demonstration again of like docu style. Like we're trying to show the real Minnesota. We're trying to show what it's actually like to be here. Um, and I'll keep going here. Um, but again, it all boils up to there's one brand, there's one audience. Since we've debuted this campaign, we've we've seen over a 23% ad influence trips increase. We've seen our campaign ROI increase by 50%. And the one I'm most proud of, and we can't take total, credit for, but there's been a net plus domestic migration to Minnesota for the first time in 6 years. During COVID, we really suffered. People were like moving to Florida, right? But since this campaign has debuted, we are seeing that domestic migration to Minnesota increase for the first time. We'll take a teeny bit of credit for it. So a little bit about, okay, now you know what we're doing. Where are we targeting our paid campaigns? We are mostly regionally targeting. It's more likely that people are going to be driving into Minnesota to experience Minnesota, although we have a great airport where you can also fly in. So this is a little bit about our targeting. Within that core Midwest region, we do have an affinity bundle that's focused completely on culture. So some of our paid campaigns are literally just focused on people within the Midwest core region who demographically are more likely to go to a concert, to see a performing arts, to go to a museum, to do a kind of an art crawl event. So we're specifically targeting those folks with art specific videos, and we'll show you one, and I can try to narrate it. And then we also are targeting national tastemakers. So that's kind of like the print stuff I was talking about, right? Do we have those arts and culture press folks from across the nation that can learn more about Minnesota? We do some flight and heavy up markets. So Chicago is always a great place to try to get people up. Dallas has also been successful for us. I sometimes think they just want to flee the heat, but that's good. We want people from Texas here too. And then we do in-state marketing as well, making sure that people from the metro are going out and that people from the outstate are coming in. It's not a total focus because again, we're trying to bring net new money, but especially during like that shoulder season, that's an important thing for us to consider. We also don't want people to go to Wisconsin, so that's part of it. So I always pick on Wisconsin. There's other states to pick on too, though. So within all of this, and again, most relevant for this audience is that we really saw an opportunity to grow our culture focus as we began this campaign. And this has happened even more concertedly in the last year. So according to our brand studies, Minnesota is most known for lakes, winter, and the Mall of America. And that's like across the nation. That's not, slicing and dicing and targeting people, but like, what are we known for? That is what we are known for. But we sometimes joke we're known for cold lakes, right? So how do we broaden that perception, both regionally as well as nationally? So and we do studies again every year thinking about how are we showing up, and we have a real opportunity within the Midwest and nation for arts and culture to ladder higher, right? Like we know we're really good at this, so how can Explore Minnesota in collaboration with partners have us rank higher? And I think it's mostly honestly by just talking about ourselves differently and focusing on this more. So again, I think it's low hanging fruit. We've started this initiative more concertedly in the last year, and we'll have more metrics about it soon. I'm wondering, can you hear it when I play this? I'm just gonna try. give me a thumbs
We
up.
are at the Minneapolis Institute of Art.
We have nearly 100,000 objects.
I love that the falls are just so close to the city. We are one of the premier contemporary art museums in this country. Incredible. Just seeing the lakes, I felt like I was on a different planet.
So that's just like a short example, right? And again, it's people saying just at the Minneapolis Institute of Arts and being like, wow, this is great, right? So trying to splice in, yes, people know us for lakes, but like while you're at the Lantern Festival at Lake Phalen, you could, the few hours before you could go to the MIA. There's a lot of different types of opportunities for art and culture in Minnesota. So again, just using that same principle of docu-style, but focusing more concertedly on arts and culture. And then we have, like 8 of these spots like in rotation throughout the campaign so people can see it over and over again.
We are at
And so again, then there's also like print, digital, all of that stuff. This summer we like heavily featured the Thomas Donbo Trolls in Detroit Lakes, which, an art installation that you can go experience, but it's alongside lake life and kids and families coming up too, right? So again, just how do we integrate art within lake life, within all of this, so that Minnesota has this perception of being an amazing place for culture as well. One of the things that I'm really proud of that is currently live is a partnership that we have with The Atlantic, and I'm going to scroll this again, where we basically partnered with them on this kind of not investigative, but very in-depth article about why arts in Minnesota are like popping right now. So this is where the wild ideas thrive. This is currently live. You can go see it. But we partnered with Laura Zabel, interviewed these 3 artists, playwrights, visual artists from Minnesota, talking about like why they live here and why being an artist here is like the greatest thing ever too. So this is performing super well right now. And again, it's just trying to make sure that nationally, like the arts conversation is focused on Minnesota. So super proud of this. We can enter that link in the chat too. But something that we do, we also have one live currently now about our culinary scene that's featuring Karin Tomlinson from Muriel and like Yia Vang from Vinay, Gustavo from Ora by Nixta too. So again, just trying to like say like these really amazing people have chosen to live here and practice here, be part of our creative economy, and there's like a reason why, right? So then finally, I did want to talk just a little bit about film because everybody loves film. Everybody's excited about film. So the state film office was established in July 2024. So it's been part of us for 2 years. A lot of that first year was just like logistics of how you run a state office, right? But now we're starting to more concertedly market Minnesota as a place to film production, TV, commercials even, right? And a lot of creators do that type of work. We launched about a month and a half ago this kind of retrospective. It's 30 years since Fargo was filmed in Minnesota. We actually got the rights from MGM to do kind of a spoof on it, which really surprised me. I was worried I was not going to be able to pull it off, but we were able to pull it off. And it's about how, everybody knows, a lot of people know Minnesota for being cold and like the landscape of Fargo. Fargo is an amazing movie, but it is 30 years later, right? And Minnesota is a different place, but also has this long history of being a great place to be a creator. So that spot is live on our YouTube. It's like the most watched thing on YouTube that we've ever had too. So really fun. But again, it's talking about like why you want to be an artist in Minnesota and why you want to film your production in Minnesota, and just more will come out from our department about that soon too. So something to check out. So I've talked a lot about what we do and what we're doing. But I have a little bit about how you can get involved with that. And I'll just pause. Is there anything we want to talk about? Keep going.
I think we're good. Yep.
Okay, excellent. So how to get involved. I briefly mentioned this, but we have attractions and event listings on our website that are free to put up, and these are often surfaced in those AI summaries when people are searching, especially for things to do, right? So like if you're located in Rochester, we want people to still go to your website. We're not trying to cannibalize that. But if they don't know about you and they want to plan a trip about Rochester, like this is a really good opportunity. They're going to search Rochester, and then what you offer is going to come up within that. So events and attractions listings, pretty simple way to be surfaced on exploreminnesota.com. We also have a co-op program. So what this means is like we have buying power across partners where if you want to try a new marketing campaign, you can literally like apply for a state discounted rate because we're pooling destinations together to be able to buy some marketing. So this is example, this isn't like stuff that is always offered every year, but example, we do, offerings in digital, TV, print. If you want to be on Care 11 with your event, like we can help you, we can subsidize a package so that you can talk about yourself on those different types of channels, even print. So like if you're really interested in being in Milwaukee Magazine, you have a lot of people from Milwaukee coming, like we can help subsidize your ability to market there. And then you can also advertise with us. So we have like a travel guide. We print 225,000 of these a year. We have featured business listings on exploreminnesota.com. You can be in our newsletters, all of that stuff. It's not very expensive because we are part of the state, right? So if that's ever of interest, that's a way we can help you get in front of our audiences as well. We also have a conference every year. So if you're like interested in how do I learn more about tourism in Minnesota, like what can I do? What is possible of getting, more people to my attraction or my event, whatever it might be. This could be a good opportunity. Registration begins in the fall. Every year we do every other year we switch off between the metro and outstate. We were just in Duluth, so we'll be in the metro region. This likely, I think it's February. We don't have the exact date yet, but networking, there's keynote events, there's scholarships available for students or tribal nations as well. So a good opportunity just to learn more about tourism. And if you're not quite ready for the conference, we do have also just continuing education series, so webinars like this about tourism in Minnesota and how to get involved. Those start back up after the summer. So that's also just another opportunity just to hear more from us. This is probably the hub of everything you see. I should say we are literally updating our industry website in like the next month. So it's going to look a lot better in a month, but go there today and then you can go there again in July and it's going to look fantastic. But exploreminnesota.com/industry. So that's where, like, if you're interested in the co-op program I just talked about, you want to get a listing, you want to sign up for our newsletters, go there and like everything is contained there for you. But also, if you want to talk to somebody, so I'm a marketer, but we have this whole other industry relations team at Explore Minnesota where their job is really just to like talk to you about your destination, your offering, how can you be incorporated into what we are doing, how can we know what you're doing. So there are reps assigned for each region throughout the state that can have a conversation with you about what you're looking for, what you're thinking about, or if you just have some questions about how do you get involved in tourism, right? So these folks are devoted across the state. I'm going to like leave this up at the end of the conversation too. So if you want to write down the specific person's name, you have the ability to do that. But you can also follow us on LinkedIn if you just want like a quick hit. You don't want to talk to somebody right now, but you're interested in following what we're doing. The final thing just about how you get involved is like sharing as much information as possible with us, right? Like we feel like we know a lot about Minnesota, but I learn new things every day in this job, right? One huge thing is sharing quality photo and video assets. We try to get out there with our campaign and our high quality video, but we can't go everywhere. We got to use state dollars efficiently. So whatever you have can help us better share Minnesota, right? So that is a huge thing, a huge push. If you have good stuff, send it to us. Also sharing new and notable news developments. You have a new wing, you have a new, you even have an anniversary. Anniversaries perform like super well. There's always a hook with an anniversary, right? So that we could be pitching out, whether it's locally, because we do have, kind of standard Fox 9 sets where we talk about what's happening in Minnesota, or if you're interested even nationally, if this is a national story, could we help bring exposure to your organization, your destination? If you don't want to send an email, there's also a form, and we can put that in the chat of like, what's worth the trip to your place, right? So you can just submit this form. It's put in our queue and kind of assigned out and shared with all of our content folks so that we can keep you in mind as we're building out our programs. One thing, beyond like kind of the press of it all, it does take a long time to build a marketing campaign. So you might tell us about something and it might appear later, right? But we're always thinking about you, right? And there are different ways to engage with us and be included in what we're talking about as well. Tagging Explore Minnesota on your social channel is always a really easy thing for us to do. Every day we check who has tagged us. We can't guarantee that we're going to be able to surface you, but again, it helps us keep you in mind if we notice that you're doing that a lot too, of like, okay, they have a lot going on. Maybe we should have a conversation with this organization as well. And then finally, the last thing, if you have like a really passionate spokesperson for your organization that knows what's going on, or even, an artist that's part of your organization that's doing some really cool stuff. Oftentimes when we're pitching, people don't want to talk to me. Like I'm a part of the state. I'm not interesting, right? They want to talk to the artist themselves. They want to talk to the person who is, running them, who has made the mountain biking trail, not me talking about the mountain biking trail. So if you have like that really passionate person that could be good to have in our Rolodex, then again, we can bring exposure to you. So in conclusion, Explore Minnesota, basically tourism is a really powerful economic engine for Minnesota, and arts and culture are a really crucial component to that. Secondly, our job is to actively amplify your offerings so that we can ensure the state is economically sound. That's my whole job. So anything you do that we can amplify, lift up, incorporate into how we talk about Minnesota is awesome. And then finally, there are a lot of really great opportunities to get involved in what we're doing. You can reach out to your regional rep or submit that form, just making sure that you know that we are open, an open, house to anything you're doing. We want to hear about it and figure out how we can incorporate it and kind of build that story together. Here we go. And I said, I am going to just end on this slide in case you are interested in the person that you should be reaching out to based on where you are geographically located in the state.
This is amazing. I hope that everyone is, and maybe drop a star or a lightning bolt or something in the chat if this has been helpful. Stay with us just for a minute here. I want to say, and if you have questions, of course, go ahead and put them in the Q&A piece. And as we wrap up today, I want to extend our sincere thanks to Catherine and the entire Explore Minnesota team. What you've heard today represents more than just that marketing campaign. It represents how Minnesota tells its story to the world. And so for all of us in the arts community, that's really exciting. Explore Minnesota has recognized something we've long known, that arts and culture is not an add-on to Minnesota's identity. We're one of the reasons people choose to be here. So Catherine and her team deserve tremendous credit for ensuring that arts and culture have a meaningful place within the Star of the North campaign and for creating opportunities for artists, arts organizations, and cultural institutions to participate. I'd be remiss if I didn't say this is an opportunity that's only valuable if we seize it. So again, our part in this is that the organizations that will benefit the most from these efforts will be the organizations that engage and participate and tell their stories and build those relationships like the ones on the screen right now and take advantage of the resources and opportunities being offered. Like so many things, you'll get out of it what you put into it. So I want to encourage everyone to stay connected and participate, share your stories, make sure your organization is positioned to take advantage of these incredible opportunities. I also want to thank everyone for being a part of Minnesota's arts community. Every day you're helping strengthen communities, support local economies, improving our quality of life, and making Minnesota a great place to visit, especially. So, a few things before we answer a couple questions. Actually, I'm just going to jump to a couple right now. is there any, and what we'll do is maybe follow up specifically. So is there marketing for youth focused activities, Catherine? Anything specifically for youth?
We that's a key demographic, right? Like the visitor, like the kind of family visitors, even intergenerational visitors. So, like our summer campaign right now features, I think, like it's an intergenerational family of 12 kids. So we incorporate that kind of into everything we do. But if there's a specific like youth focused programming that you want us to know about, like please send it our way. Again, Minnesota, we want to be known as the best state for families, so send it our way. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think I know the answer to this, but I'll just ask. Can we send your slide deck out with the links to
Yeah.
everyone who participated? Great. So we'll
Yeah,
go
of
ahead and
course.
do that. We have a couple people who have asked for that in our Q&A. So yes, we'll go ahead and send the presentation slides and especially this information on how to participate and how to reach out to people. Another question is, do the regional leaders still meet out in their areas?
Yes, we actually just had a whole set of roundtables with our executive director that really is feeding some of our strategies as we move forward. But yes, regional reps are often in their areas. Some of them like actually live in those areas, right? So they do that, and they often travel out to make sure that they're having conversations as well.
Oh, wonderful. Any other questions, you can always feel free to email Mark or I at MCA, and we'll make sure to get back to you as quick as we can. Again, I want to thank everyone for coming today. And a couple things that everyone has to just be aware of is that we're continuing our statewide tour, where we go to different communities and do meetups. Our upcoming meetups, June 2nd, we're at Lyric Arts in Anoka. June 9th, we're at the High Point Center for Printmaking in Minneapolis. And June 26th, we're at the Playwright Center in St. Paul. So these are the gatherings that connect fellow arts leaders. We share stories about the impact of arts funding in your communities. We're there with elected officials and also our partners we're there with our partners at the State Arts Board, Sue Jens and Caroline Taiwo from McKnight, as well as our Regional Arts Council staff and directors. So I really hope you can join us at one of those if you're in those areas. And if you're not already a member of MCA, I hope you'll consider joining us. Everything MCA does, from protecting legacy funding to advocating at the Capitol, to building partnerships like the one you've seen here today, to creating opportunities for arts community to learn and connect and grow, is all made possible by our members. So we don't receive any government funding for our advocacy work. We're 100% member supported. I also want your memberships and contributions fuel every conversation, every coalition, every relationship, and every victory. So simply put, this work happens because people like you choose to invest in it. I'd also encourage you to support our MCA PAC. The political action committee that we have helps build and strengthen relationships with policymakers who understand the value of arts and culture and the importance of public investment in the arts. Those relationships have been very critical for our success in protecting and advancing legacy funding, passing our biennial arts funding bills, and laying the groundwork for future renewal of the legacy amendment itself. So the investment we make in relationships today will help determine the opportunities available to arts communities tomorrow. Again, thank you all for joining us today. A special thank you to Catherine and the Explore Minnesota team for your leadership and your partnership. Thank you to our members, our board members, the regional arts councils, the State Arts Board, and all of our supporters and partners who make this work possible. And thank you for the work you do every single day to strengthen Minnesota through arts and culture. Together, we're not just supporting the arts, we are helping shape the future of Minnesota. I hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon. Thanks again for joining us.